Hi everybody, nice to meet everybody. We're live. Welcome to our session on bringing your best self to work. I'm Fiona Davies and I am passionate about wellbeing in the workplace. I'm also a speech and language therapist working with Wirral Health and Care Community Foundation Trust. So through our panel discussion today, we aim to inspire and share top tips for increasing well-being and creating more joy in work. And that's whether you are new to healthcare, considering a job in healthcare, or thinking about volunteering. So if you're listening in to us at the moment, please use the chat feed for sharing any insight and ideas, as we'd love to hear from you about your experiences and thoughts. Please also put any questions that you might have in chat. We'll do our best to respond to them, but I'll be lurking around on chat after the session as well, and I'll do my best to follow up on anything then. If, like me, you love a tweet, please also tweet any hints, tips and ideas that you might wish to share, and let's send a ripple of well-being out beyond the conference and across Twitter. Use the hashtag #HealthCareersLive. So let's get started. Okay, I've got a word for you. I don't know whether you've heard this before. It's arbeidsglød. So what do you think that means? Well, if you're Danish, you will know that it is the word for joy in work. And we don't have an equivalent word in English, which I think is a very interesting point. So we're all here today because we hold a common belief that to experience joy in work is really important. And just before we start the panel, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. A few years ago, I had an experience of burnout. I didn't see it coming, and it was directly related to how I was coping with pressures in work. I wanted to be in work and to feel well in work, but the system at the time was generally focused on illness rather than wellness. So outside of work, I started to explore positive psychology, which led to me volunteering for Action for Happiness and running their course, which is based on the 10 keys to happier living. And I realised that these ideas could be easily used in work to support self-care and well-being. Now, being in the NHS and other caring professions, we are very good at putting other people first, and it might feel counterintuitive to put ourselves first. But self-care isn't selfish. It's actually more important than ever, and to be our best selves at work and to be able to lead, we must first be able to lead ourselves. Particularly in the current context as well. It's challenging for everybody, isn't it? So connection and community and having a common purpose is also really vital right now, more than ever, for the well-being of the individual, the team, and an organisation in healthcare. Now, recent experience of working as a virtual team has meant that connection has been key to boosting morale and supporting each other. In my team, we've developed wellbeing welcomes for new starters. We have a daily wellbeing check-in with each other. We have an informal messaging community for those kettle moments.
So I think there that Fiona was talking about wellbeing checklists. Sorry, I was just bringing up her script there. So on a script it says they have informal messaging community for kettle moments. Consider what makes a good day and a bad day. Consider what matters to you. Have walking meetings, so COVID permitting, so I guess it depends on the current guidelines. Share gratitude, appreciation and shout outs. That's something that we do in our setting as well. And have wellbeing champions who keep wellbeing on the agenda. Also, she's mentioned the impact of talking openly about wellbeing and self-care is that morale is good despite the current situation and staff feel connected and part of the community. And being our best self means we can continue to provide excellent patient care. The NHS People Pledge matters because it's a commitment to look after the wellbeing of our NHS staff allowing them to bring their best self to work. And I think she's still frozen, so I don't know who would like to go first with their questions.
I think according to the list that I have here, I think the first person on the list is Nichola. So I'm going to ask the question here. Hello, I can ask you the question. Nichola, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us, these are challenging times, particularly for people that are just joining us in the healthcare professions. What would you suggest people do to keep sight of that, the things that would support their well-being when they join a new job?
So, hello, my name is Nichola. I'm a speech and language therapist. And I work 2 part-time jobs, which is quite a bit of a juggling act, but I quite like a challenge. So I work 2 days in an adult acute setting, working with people with stroke, dementia, and other conditions, and also 3 days in a non-for-profit organisation, so working with adults with learning disability. And in answer to your question, so when you study a career in health, there's a lot to learn, and it can feel really overwhelming at times. You're doing your best to learn, doing your best in exams and your assignments, making good impressions on placement. And from the outset of being a student, it's important to look after, number one, you. If you don't, it leads to burnout, which is what Fiona was talking about. And if you burn out, well, you can't do anything, let alone your exams, your assignments, placement. And this is something I struggled with as a student, the fear of failing, not doing well enough if I didn't put all my time and my energy into my studies. But I learnt, and I'm still learning, that looking after your well-being is so, so important. When you've completed your studies, so you go into your first job in healthcare, there's so much knowledge in your head that's swimming around, and it feels overwhelming at times. I know as a speech and language therapist, and many speech and language therapists going into their first job, there feels like there's so much more to learn and so much you don't know. And especially in these difficult times where the rules are always chopping and changing and it's hard to keep up with them things. And wearing lots of P's there, PPE time as well, and the changes with that. And the communication barriers and limitations and challenges that brings as well. So when you're feeling like an imposter, you don't know enough, you feel overwhelmed, I suggest 5 top tips. Number 1, a good cup of coffee. Number 2, no, I'm joking. That's a different script, but a good cup of coffee is always welcomed. Number 1, reflect. Think about what you do know rather than focusing on what you don't. Remember, in your first job, you know more than you did when you first started your studies in healthcare, before it was even a thing. You know, you've travelled all that journey, so you know a lot more. 2, seek feedback. Reach out to your colleagues, check how you're doing, keep track of them positives. 3, view mistakes or gaps in your knowledge as opportunities to develop, rather than feeling you're inadequate or a failure. 4, look after number 1. Give yourself breaks, book annual leave, keep your weekends free as much as possible. Do things that you love and make you you. So if you're passionate about knitting, get them needles out and start making a jumper, all in time for Christmas. 5, don't lose sight of the reasons you chose a career in health. I chose speech and language therapy as I was passionate about supporting people to have a voice and making a positive difference to their lives, no matter how big or small. So hopefully them tips are useful. We're all individuals and we all do things in different ways. Remember, you're human. We don't always get things right, and being an AHP is an exciting journey, and hopefully you'll join the wonderful world of AHPs. Thank you.
Thank you, Nichola. I am back. Hopefully you can hear me. Thank you for jumping in. I'm not quite sure at what point you lost me. So thank you, Nichola, for that. Really great top tips there. Let's move on to Felicity. So we've got a question here about connection and community are key for support and our well-being. How can new members of our professions and also existing members find a sense of belonging and community when we're all working more remotely, particularly at the moment? Over to you, Felicity.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Felicity. I'm a podiatrist by background, and I'm also a preceptorship lead. So I'm currently working at Oxley's in London, and I've got a split post role, which I'm really, really enjoying. So yeah, to answer your question, creating a community right now is vital. And I think it's something that I wish I had done when I first qualified 6 years ago. Especially as a podiatrist, we are a very small profession. So making sure that you're gaining access to different, communities, whether that's different AHPs, is vital. And also with podiatry, there are, we can be lone working quite a lot. So, as you said, creating that community is especially more important now. So how can we create a community? So I really recommend having a think about what your interests are and what your goals are, and linking in with other people that have similar interests and similar goals. For example, the preceptorship program that I'm currently running, it's a pan-London program, and it's for AHPs, and it's for obviously newly qualified AHPs. So linking in with a community like that is really going to be a benefit, because you all have the same interests. You're all going through the same struggles as a newly qualified practitioner. You're all going to have the same values. So within the program that we're running, we ran a survey, and 90% of them said they really value feeling part of a wider AHP community. So something that you really, I would definitely recommend linking in with preceptorship programs when you first qualify, when you first get your job. And other examples are, your professional bodies, look at your staff support networks, your BAME support networks, your LGBTQ networks, or even just Twitter and social media. I've gotten so much off of Twitter, especially during COVID. I only joined this year, and I've taken so much from it. Just reading tweets, seeing people, I've had a bad day today, and then just seeing everyone's support. So just little things like that can make a huge difference to your day. It's really important to just have a little think about your interests and your goals, and linking it with the same communities.
That's great, Felicity. Thank you. I think the key message there is to reach out, isn't it? And make those connections, because there's always other people out there who are willing to connect with you. So thank you for that. Sally, we've got a question for you now. And we might have a lot of people here today, or people who will tune in to listen to us, who are interested in becoming a volunteer. So what are the benefits of becoming a volunteer in healthcare?
I think there are a huge number of benefits. I think a previous session has talked about the benefits of volunteering if you want to get into or you're considering a career in healthcare, and there are many different ways of doing that. So what I thought I'd talk about, if that's okay, is if you're already working or you've entered the world of the health and social care professions, volunteering still has a role and benefits for us, whether you're early in your career or a little bit further down the line. And I think it's particularly good if you've been working in a role for a while, and maybe that role has been is a good one for you because it fits in with your work life. Maybe there are other things going on, but maybe it's not stretching you personally, academically, professionally. So volunteering really can fill in a bit of a gap at point, and it can also give you opportunities to develop skills to help you advance your career, or maybe even think about moving into a different area of practice. So what volunteering opportunities might be available to you? You could consider joining a working group within your organisation. There are always calls out to join things like clinical audit groups, or projects that are looking at equality and diversity within organisations, or maybe people getting together to organise an event. I was involved in organising a series of events called Therapy's Got Talent within my organisation. And that gave me all sorts of skills of bringing people together and promoting the role and value of not just my own profession, which is occupational therapy, but also all of the other professions too. You could consider volunteering as a union rep, and that brings all sorts of opportunities for training which can be useful for you personally and professionally. Or volunteer for a role within your professional body. So as well as being an occupational therapist, I work for the Royal College of Occupational Therapists, and all sorts of opportunities within that to join a special interest group or regional group, to maybe help develop resources, or even volunteer to speak at events such as this one. Then you might also think about looking outside of your organisation for volunteering opportunities, and this is helpful whether you're thinking about the career you want to move into, or whether you're already established in your role. So consider volunteering with a charity or another organisation. For me, I've been a volunteer with the Dyspraxia Foundation for many years. Although my clinical background is with children and young people, being involved with the charity has meant that I understand, or have a better understanding of how the condition affects people in all aspects of their life, and also across their lifespan. So that's really hugely valuable. It's also given me opportunities to develop skills in things like bid writing, writing a business plan, things that you actually get to do, or you get asked to do as you progress within your career, that maybe I'd never seen a business plan before I had to write one, for example. It's also given me opportunities to do things like appear on the radio, do radio interviews. There are all sorts of other interesting things that add to your life, but also can help you build up your professional skills. So I think volunteering can benefit you personally. There is evidence that volunteering, giving something back, can help your physical and your mental health by giving you a sense of purpose and fulfillment, but it also helps you to connect with others, which could be really useful in your professional and personal life.
Thank you so much, Sally. That's really helpful. Lots of great information here. So Chloe, I'm going to come over to you now and ask you what you would say to a mature person who's considering coming into healthcare, and that they might have some concerns, particularly around being supported. And then I'm going to come to the rest of you, and we're going to ask for some tips before we start wrapping up. So Chloe, thank you.
So hi everyone, I'm Chloe. I'm an operating department practitioner, an ODP, and I work at the University of Bolton as a senior lecturer. So I'd like to bring a different spin on this. When considering well-being and creating joy in work, I think we must first consider whether or not a change in career would help us work towards being our best self and have further satisfaction that way, and a vital step. It's absolutely true that it's never too late to aspire to change your career, to do something different, something that you're passionate about and that interests you. I program lead for an undergraduate ODP degree, a profession not widely known, but nevertheless we get people from all walks of life. I've taken people onto the program that have been electricians, that have been florists, that have been bakers, police officers, sales and marketing. And what do all these people have in common? There's no simple answer to that, but the answer I've come up with is they all woke up one day and said, I want to make a change. I want to act on what I feel passionate about, what excites me, and what I want to learn and develop. And of course, to work within healthcare, you need to want to help people when they're at their most vulnerable. You need to want to give them the compassion and to make them feel safe and confident in the treatment you're providing. However, a lot of this can be taught and built upon the life experiences that you already have at any age you come into the career. So what do I say to a mature person? The same thing I'd say to anybody of any age wanting a career in healthcare, especially AHPs. Go for it. You don't need to have worked in healthcare. all of your life to apply for a healthcare degree. You just want to want it, to really, really want it, to work hard for it, to achieve your goals. And you will be provided with a lot of support from your college, from your university, from your colleagues and from your peers. You will not be alone. And look at the network that's gathered today on this conference is just an example of that. So just absolutely go for it. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chloe. That's really inspiring, isn't it? Thank you. So, Elaine, can you tell us a bit about why relationships in work are important for helping people to flourish?
Hi, I'm Elaine Tate, and I'm also a podiatrist by profession, and I work for East Sussex Healthcare Trust. So relationships are kind of thinking of the top tips, thinking of time. It's really vital that we need to speak to each other on a daily basis, just to touch base. As already mentioned, podiatry, we're quite an autonomous practitioners, and sometimes we don't see another clinician for days. So it's really, really important to use the media that we have. Microsoft Teams and other forums are great at being able to just touch base, just make sure that we're all okay and all safe. Also make sure that we reflect every day. So we're having a really tough time out there at the moment, and it's really important that we just reflect on what good things we did that day, because even though some bits are really tough, actually some bits were great, and the patients will, really appreciate what we do every single day. So just reflect on that every day. And also don't be afraid to speak up if you're flagging, or if you're having problems yourself. Just speak up and say to somebody, look, I need somebody to talk to, just help me, please. And there's always somebody. We've got some amazing people that we work with. All of us are really lucky within the NHS that we actually have lots and lots of other people around us that we can speak up and say, please, can I have some help? And it's really important just to do that. Relationships are vital.
Absolutely, I agree.
Did it quick?
Elaine. Thank you. I know we're under pressure a little bit here, aren't we? Thank you so much. Gemma, have you got some top tips on what you do daily that supports your well-being?
Daily, I've got a routine for when I'm on work days, and a routine for when I'm not on work days. And I think one of the most important things is actually having that solid balance and being able to rely on your out of work life to support your in work life. I always make plans when I'm out of work. I've got children as well, so spending decent quality time with them and seeing my friends and seeing my family, and especially at the moment while I can't do that, it's a case of putting my earphones in and taking myself out for a walk and being able to mentally unwind. I think that's the most important thing. But in terms of work days, it's the same old: eat well, sleep well, absolutely sleep well. Definitely on the coffee. I don't care if it was a thing or not. I live on it. You probably shouldn't. Coffee or tea. But yeah, I have a routine and a loomy for the 12-hour shifts to make sure that I get up in the morning with a little bit more of a spring in my step. But to follow on from the relationships part at work, it's fundamental. You absolutely need to have a network at work of people, especially I'm an ODP as well at Frimley. And just for the variation in the job and how that can affect your mental health, depending on the cases that you get, you really do need a team around you that know you and have got you and you're comfortable to open up to. And that makes the world of difference for me in my job.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. So routine and putting yourself first, mate, it's important, isn't it? So thank you so much for sharing what you do to support yourself. And Christian, tell us, what does it mean to you to bring your best self to work, and what impact does that have on you and your service and your service users?
So hello everyone, I'm Christian. I'm also a speech and language therapist. I work in offender care, so I work in a youth prison in London. And I think we have the same brief, Gemma. So I'm also a big advocate for balance in terms of balance in all other aspects of your life. So in terms of relationships, make sure you're having time for yourself, friendships, hobbies, self-development, for example. And I think when you do that, you feel good about yourself. When you feel good, you're a pleasure to be around. And you're attentive, you're motivated, you're more empathic. So I'm a very big advocate for having balance in all aspects of your life as well. And this top tip I could give in terms of actually when working, I would say pause, like take your breaks. I remember when I first started, as an NQP and feeling I had to work all hours of the day. and going home very late. But I think it's really important to pause, take your breaks, because you deserve it and you deserve to recharge. So yeah, that'll be my top tip.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Pause. I think sometimes we don't do that enough, do we? It's so important. So thank you, everybody, for your information, your knowledge, your tips. I think in terms of summing up very quickly, healthy and happy staff in healthcare is our greatest and most precious resource. So we've got to look after ourselves and we've got to look after each other, especially in the current context. Now, I'm going to be hanging around on chat, so I will be happy to answer any more questions about wellbeing. But I would like to thank our panel members today for their time and for showing up and for sharing their passion for their professions and for looking after themselves so that they can do their best job as their best self in work. So we'll wrap up now. Thank you so much, everybody.